By way of introduction, I spent 15 years as a part of various teams who prepared political and policy leaders at the very highest level for the polite diplomacy that we engage in these activities. And I'll use this opportunity to declare that I learned well, but I've outgrown my training in understated diplomacy. And as a result, I hope that it is that transition that caused me to be asked to chair this particular forum and not the other way around, because I don't intend to be particularly diplomatic or polite. I'll be polite, but I think there are some truths that we need to be very clear about, and I was very excited to see the General this morning speak his truths, which is something we need to do a lot more and be more forthright about in the Caribbean. So there are three things that we've been asked to consider on this panel. On the face of it, commoditization, exploitation, and the general theme of today, rejuvenation. And I want to suggest that in order to do this, we have to first deal with three issues: honesty, our collective conscience as a Caribbean, and what I identify as growing cultures of expedience. And today I want us to go to some uncomfortable places. Growth and transformative change are seldom comfortable. We need to go to some uncomfortable places. We need to identify that in the Caribbean we have some problems. So let's be committed to being honest today. Let's be committed to admitting, as the General said this morning, that in many cases we're stuck on stupid, even if it makes us uncomfortable. In the Caribbean, we need to admit that we are faced with a conundrum of our own making. One of the greatest criticisms of our region and the tourism industry in our region is the commoditization of the region's human, cultural, and natural assets. Exploitation is the word that comes to mind and is in the title of today's presentation. So I'm going to hear from a number of interesting people with perspectives on that. But every time we gather at these fora, we come knowing that there is a perception that the interests of tourists to our region supersede those of Caribbean citizens. We also know, even where we see that there is exaggeration in some cases, that there is some truth to these perceptions. But we also know that we can't live without this industry in this region. Our existing tourism models bring increasing numbers heads to beds, and we're always boasting these fabulous statistics about tourism. We place emphasis on satisfying macro tourism objectives. We commit our resources to achieve, to being able to boast about these indicators. I've written those speeches in ministries of tourism. I've written those speeches in offices of the Prime Minister for several different persons. The indicators have not changed. We delight in the growth in arrivals and earnings, growth in bookings, strengthened partnerships, and deepened linkages. But there are some cultures that we have in general that we've come to display in Caribbean policymaking. These are the three things that I think we need to look at: honesty, conscience, and expedience, even as we've been asked to look at commoditization, exploitation, and rejuvenation. There are some cultures that we have in general that we've come to display in Caribbean policy making and practice. And I see it as cultures of expedience. It's a well-meaning disingenuity. We mean well. We really mean to do the best that we can. And it's kind of a vague place that we're in. You know, the kind of alternative facts that we hear about when we watch some of the television stations from the United States. We take some policy steps in the right direction, but these steps feature compromises and contradictions that have dire implications for our countries and our people. We do just enough to demonstrate progress or success, but not sufficient to see the holistic, sustainable development. There's a woman by the name of Donna McFarlane, Dr. Donna McFarlane, the late Donna McFarlane, who was involved in the process of developing our own sustainable tourism plan. And I just wanted to invoke her, today in memory, because she's a woman who believed in some of the egalitarian principles that we need to espouse when we're looking at policy for tourism. We look at the picking of the few low-hanging fruit when there's so much more that we can reach to get us the bounty. We look to the things that provide us with immediate gratification. We do what is enough, but just not sufficient. And we make a lifetime of our decisions. The lifetime of our decisions is a 5-year administration and political cycle. This is not a question, it's not an indictment, it's really just a fact. Do you see these processes in your organizations? Do you see any of these things happening around you? Are they things that you sit in the boardroom and you want to say something about, but you don't? If you don't, then you're a part of the problem.